$0.
Oh, and it tells you it's real. Right, Diane.
Oh.
And Rotary model, service above self. Okay, please stand, put your hand over your heart, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ah, not true up at all. Now I'd like you to join me in a moment's silence. Tremendous. Welcome, everyone. And I'd like you all to say hello to Linda Schultz, my very dear friend. We will give Linda a more formal introduction before she talks to us later today or this morning. In fact, I could make a whole meeting out of what Linda does for our community. So Linda, welcome. We're just a bunch of folks trying to have a little fun, and you'll see that we can tend toward rowdiness. But first, a few announcements. Randy is not here, but he asked me to pass a message with regard to the golf cart raffle we're conducting. First of all, we all owe Randy a tremendous debt of gratitude, and then Randy would add me and my team, because there are a lot of people involved in helping Randy manage the process. It's a major undertaking. He would like everybody, if you haven't, to get your receipts and tickets to the person who gave you your receipts and tickets. So you know who that is. So if you have an envelope and you haven't turned your tickets in and your money, make every effort to get that done by tomorrow night. Is that good? Okay.
Yeah, could I?
Yes,
that?
Paul.
When you turn in your money to Randy or to your collector, please put on the envelope the number of tickets you sold, include the tickets, of course, that you didn't sell, if any, hopefully none, and the total amount of money that you're turning in.
Thank you, Paul. When the board conceived of the golf cart raffle, my target was $10,000. Randy and his team have blown right through that. Randy is predicting north of $11,000, which will give us an opportunity to do a lot of good in the neighborhood. And the demand for golf carts is tremendous. And it's something to think about next year, Chuck. We might be, we have a reputation for crab cakes, and that's our brand, but we could be, we can have two brands. So that seems to be a moneymaker and a tremendous demand. So keep that in mind. The key is to get somebody to give you a golf cart. This Thursday, Mehdi, would you want to talk up to the tour we have in mind and some of the issues, and maybe we can get a little help on that?
Yes, so this Thursday we planned to, the site committee of the Invisible History Project has planned to make a golf cart tour of all the sites that we have identified to research so far. So we have a visual view of where these sites are in the town. And so we were planning to meet in front of the golf course, of the golf cart purveyor on Stone Road, but Bill just mentioned that there are no carts available. And indeed, that is the situation of the golf carts in town. Like you have to rent so many months in advance in order to get a reservation for a golf cart. And apparently there are no new golf carts available for delivery anytime soon. And so there is like a shortage of golf carts. Anyway, so that's why our raffle ticket is a timely endeavor of the Rotary, and that's why it's popular. Anyway, so we are going to meet there, and then I'm trying to borrow the cards of my friends, and I will still have to hear from them whether we could borrow it or not. Otherwise, we will meet at 9 o'clock at the lot of the golf course of the golf cart purveyor on Randolph Avenue and corner of Fulcher Street, where we meet for the cleanup usually at 9 o'clock this Thursday. If we don't have a golf cart, either we walk or we could ride maybe in some of the cars together. And then Tom Godwin should be guiding us. I need to make sure that he is with us because he's the one who knows about all of these sites. So anyone who would be interested in joining the tour would be welcome. So 9 o'clock this Thursday.
Thank you, Mehdi. Any question for Mehdi? Okay, Linda, you can participate in our meeting if you have questions or.
Well, yeah, one thing that pops into my head is, and you'll see that there were quite a few people from Cape Charles who were involved in the oral history project that I'm going to talk to you about. And they are also people who may have some good memories. And many, I'll give you access to their contact information, memories of places. So, I mean, I know Tom is a wealth of information, but, it's hard for one person to remember it all. And different people will have different takes on, various sites too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, Tammy. Are you there, Tammy?
Yes.
You want to tell us about what transpired this morning and how things are going with the project?
Yes. Nettie and I met at the pharmacy and we had a nice meal together, and we have a plan, and each of us are going to go to different merchants that we do business with. And we do have a list of all the merchants on Main Street and their contact information that Jackie has provided. And so each of us will serve a role just collecting things for the basket. And I actually last week went to my favorite antique store in Melfa, and the owner donated a beautiful white antique wicker basket.
Oh,
We have
wow.
a basket. It's beautiful.
beautiful,
And I showed it to Mehdi this morning. We have our basket.
How big is it?
It's pretty big. It's a nice
Bigger,
size.
yeah.
It's a nice size. So we're
Bigger
gonna fill
than
it
the
up.
bucket that we had the other year.
That's great.
Yeah,
Good
but
for
this
you,
time
Tammy.
it has a very
Thank you.
different look.
So we've got, we don't have to kill ourselves. You have until September to turn it in, right?
I believe
And
I read something about August that you had to have it in, maybe the
Okay,
second.
I sent it all to you. I just don't let me throw you off there. And keep in mind that Mary Yu also is volunteering to help if you need some help.
Oh, yes, we've been in contact too. She just couldn't make the meeting today, so we're all good.
Yeah, it's a busy day for a lot of people. So Tammy, thanks again for stepping up. And we've got two of our dynamos on this one. So Betty, I don't know where you get the energy. So Chuck, will you give us an update on what's going on with cemeteries and markers and that sort of thing?
Well, there was an article published in the Post about the cemetery that's being cleaned up by Carla and Glenn Purvis. I usually, when they're there working, I stop when I'm on my bike and talk with them for 20 minutes or so. They're very interesting people. They really are. If you ever get a chance to speak with them, do it, because you hear a lot of interesting things from them. They progress quite a bit. Now, I'm not sure. I think that Carla may have had a little accident. It sounds like she may have broken her foot or something. And I didn't get
She
into
did.
it whether it happened while she was working there, but I have a feeling that may have happened. She's a go-getter. I mean, she'll chop down a tree and drag it out to the road. She's not afraid to get dirty at all, not at all. So I would not doubt maybe she injured herself while she was working there. So I have not seen them there for the last week and a half. I did email her, wished her all the best, told her I would like her and Glenn this fall, once we start meeting in person, to please come to one of our meetings and talk to us. And, you know, maybe somehow we managed to twist their arm a little bit without injuring them and get them to become members. They live in Eastville.
There you go.
Yeah, they live in Eastville. There was also a cemetery that Carla pointed out to me that was hidden just north, the next road north of Sunnyside. I always forget the name of the road. But I did manage to find that cemetery. It's back in the weeds. And I did a little bit of research, and evidently there was a Salem Methodist church there at one time. And there is a burying ground there, I think, with 16 identified graves. As far as if we want to get into who are they go back to the 1800s as far as the dates on the tombstones. And what I have seen online, the little research I've done, don't mean this to get racial, but these are white folks. So it was a white church, and it looks like at least one grave out of the 16 was possibly a Confederate veteran. So just laying out the facts as I know them right now, I want to get in there. I'm going to get in there after the poison ivy dies and the snakes go to bed and everything. I'd like to get in there and poke around and see what I can find. And I am going to do a little bit of research on the actual people that are buried there. There's always interesting stories about people in small towns to me. And I'm sure because of the history here on the shore, families go back a long, long ways. And I'm sure when I start looking at the ancestors going back, probably dig up a few facts about them as well. No pun intended with the dig up. But I'm gonna poke around in there as soon as I get the opportunity. I want the snakes to go away, and I don't want ticks roaming around, and I don't want poison ivy either. So I'm gonna wait until the weather cools down.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. Paul, I think this will be your last COVID report. So we'll have a drum roll and drum you out, but where are we as of today?
Well, I'm hoping that I won't need to give another report.
No, you won't. This is your last one.
This is well, this is the 4th week in a row that Cape Charles has had no new cases. And the third week in a row that Northampton County has had no new cases. Numbers are down everywhere to what they were in Virginia as a whole. It's down to what they were in early April, very soon after the pandemic arrived and reporting started.
Thank you. Um, I'm feeling a lot better. I guess everybody else is. Anybody would like to make a comment at this point about where they are with COVID?
I
Well-
think nationally, pretty good news too, as well. There's some hot spots here and there, but they're shrinking down. I mean, there's some major improvement across the entire country right now.
Well, Cape Charles, of course, is beginning to feel like it's never been under pandemic because everybody's going around without masks and
Yeah.
all the restaurants are open and the venues are celebrating again. So it's
Mhm.
good.
I see a lot of smiles. I go in the store and people seem happy, and that's nice. That's uplifting.
Yeah, we have a lot to be thankful for. So I'd like you to just jot down some dates again, if you haven't. On August 17th at 6 o'clock, where are we going to be?
At the park.
Central Park. We're going to have our first in-person meeting of the year. We haven't done that since, when was the last one?
It was August of last year.
August of last year. So it's been a while. So I'm really looking forward to that, and put that down on your calendar. And then the following week, we'll have our multi-club district governor's dinner at the Eastern Shore Yacht and Country Club. 5 o'clock for cocktails, 6 o'clock if you're skipping the cocktail hour. But who wants to do that? So we've got a busy month in, hey, Murphy is smiling. Murphy is not skipping the cocktail hour. So August is a big month. Our next exciting event is on 4th of July, and that's of course when we'll sell the last few raffle tickets, and we will raffle off the golf cart at Strawberry Plaza in town. It's going to be we're going to have the parade. The town's definitely open. To echo Medi's comments, we're back to business. We're still looking for an awards chairperson. So that's something that we have to keep focused on. And the award chair is the person that just collects up all the good things we do and registers it in our database. But we need somebody that's responsible to do that. And I'll keep asking. Seems like I've been asking for over a year, but I'm not going to stop. So think about it. Remember to call your buddies and invite your neighbors and your friends to a Rotary meeting. Won't hurt. Invest an hour in seeing what we do in between our projects. So what time is it, Diane?
It is time for our happy dollars.
Happy dollars. Happy dollars. Who's happy out there?
Well, I will start.
Betty's happy.
Yeah, I'll have $5 because I will start a family reunion on Thursday. Beginning in the afternoon, family will be arriving for our reunion for the week of June 10 to the 21st. I will have 17 members of the family over, and all 8 siblings will be attending, plus some of the nieces and grandchildren. So it's going to be a very big group, and we're going to just eat and enjoy Cape Charles.
That's great, Meddy. Meddy, will you give Nancy a night off so I can take her to dinner?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, she'll be here.
Oh, that's great.
Can I go
Any
with
other
you?
reasons for being happy?
Can I go with you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have a sub party.
yeah.
That's those of you who haven't met Nancy. Nancy is Meddy's sister, and she lived here in Cape Charles for a number of years. She's in Richmond now, right, Meddy?
Yeah, right. She arrived in Richmond last week.
And she is just a sweetheart. She's almost as nice as Meddy. And when Nancy's there, I say to Nancy, Meddy's almost as nice as you. Yeah, but that's the way you have to play it. It's a tie. So that's why I'm happy. I'm happy because Nancy's back in town. I'm happy to the tune of $5, Paul. Chuck.
How much?
$5. That's how happy I am.
So I have $5. I'm going to put my Cape Charles Main Street hat on. And beginning this month, Cape Charles Main Street will be promoting third Thursdays through September. It will be down at the Love Sign, 5 to 9. There will be music, food trucks, adult beverages. So come on down and enjoy the sunset and all the people that are going to be there. So third Thursdays.
That's great, Bill. Thank you for announcing that and being so happy about it. Do I see any other happy? Oh, Chuck is happy. You, Alan, and then Bill.
I'll toss in $5. Over the last month, I've started sending some write-ups on family ancestry to my brothers and other parts of my family and sharing it with them. We always talked a little bit about it, but they didn't seem all that interested. But I wrote up 130 pages on one of my Irish lines, the Falloon family. That went back 9 generations. And then I did a write-up on the Huber family on my father's side. The first one was my mother's side. And that was 11 generations. And I got all kinds of emails and phone calls back from my brothers and my nieces and nephews, and they really liked it. So now I'm on the hook. So I'm currently working on one of my family's 13 generations back who came through the Jamestown settlement. So I'm doing that one. I'm going to start doing those every couple of months, doing a full write-up. So it's not just boring genealogy stuff. It's actually stories, pictures, and things like that. So I am writing. The first one was about 130 pages long. The second one was around 123 pages. The one for the Woodson family will probably be more like around 200 to 250 pages. So I'm happy my family is happy with that. And now they're pressuring me for more and more.
Chuck, I only have one question.
Uh-huh.
Is that single space or double space?
Single space, believe it.
Of course. What else should Chuck do other than single space, Bill?
You're an animal, Chuck. I don't know how you do it, but congratulations.
Publishing a book of this, Chuck.
It's actually all on ancestry.com. So for people that like to do the research, but I don't know, I may pick a line and you know, it's too much. I've researched 82,500 people in my family. So it's a little bit too much to say a book. Something like that would cover a whole shelf full of books. So I may pick a family here or there or a family line and do something with it.
Sounds fascinating.
Ellen, you had
Absolutely.
your hand up.
Yes, I have good news, although I want to precede it with a little history. About a week ago, our daughter, who works in Saudi Arabia, was diagnosed with COVID, and she had had one shot of the Seneca. What is the
AstraZeneca.
Saudi Arabia, the vaccination they're using there as a
Okay.
two-stage shot. And had one shot and was scheduled in 2 days for the second shot. And she was, unbeknownst to her, exposed to a person, a lawyer with whom she works in Saudi Arabia, at Saudi Aramco, who was, after she was exposed to him, 2 days later, he was diagnosed with COVID. And 2 days after that, she still didn't have any symptoms. She got her second shot, and then 2 days after that, she came down with COVID.
Oh.
This all happened in the last week. But the good news is she is coming along. She ended up in the hospital. She was diagnosed with pneumonia. She was on oxygen, all of that, but that is all now basically passed, all in the last 7 days or so. But she is feeling much better. Last weekend, she thought she was going to die. But she made it through. And so the $5 happy dollar here is that things look very good at this point. But it's been a rough few days here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boys, Alan, I'm sorry we didn't know about that.
Didn't even know about it when we had our last meeting.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm glad she's out of the woods, and we'll continue to keep her in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. So nothing to fool with, I can tell you that.
Mm.
You got that right. Bill Murphy.
Well, I would add one thing, and that is in Saudi Aramco, they have a cooperative agreement with Johns Hopkins, and she's in the Johns Hopkins hospital on the site in Saudi Aramco.
Well, that's good. I'm sorry to cut you off, Alan. Bill?
Well, originally I had 5 happy dollars. I think I'm going to bump it to 10. First of all, the first 5 there, after hearing Alan's news, is in celebration, or I'm very happy to hear that his daughter's on the mend. Sounds pretty serious, but I'm very happy to hear she's doing well. So that's the first 5. The second 5 is sort of in celebration. Well, I guess celebration that Bill Payne's 2 years as president is coming to an end. I'm happy. I'm not happy that he's leaving, but I'm happy for him. And I'm also happy that Chuck's going to be taking over. So I know Chuck had to give that a lot of thought before he agreed. So I'm happy and sad that Bill's leaving, and I'm happy that Chuck's coming in. So that's my happy dollars.
Well, Bill Payne's a tough act to follow.
It's easy, Chuck. Easy. I think we'll have better meetings. All right, any more? Well, okay. Oh, Tammy has an electronic hand up. She's too much.
I'd like to give two happy dollars. I'm finding time to do artwork because I'm an artist, and that's one of my favorite hobbies. So I'm painting again, and watercolors and acrylics. I'm taking time just to enjoy.
Well, good for you. Tammy is a Renaissance woman. Or I should say Renaissance person. When do you find time to sell some real estate, Tammy?
Well, I make time. But I'm just, you got to enjoy life. And
there you go. There you go.
Enjoying some hobbies now. So that's important too, to have the mix.
Well, once again, we're delighted that you're on board. It'll be nice when we can get back together again. When we had our board meeting about an hour ago, Paul has about 20 badges that we haven't handed out. Well, maybe I exaggerate a bit, but quite a few. And I have a number of Paul Harris fellow pins that we haven't been able to hand out. So I'm really looking forward to our getting back together again. So, Linda, are you ready? No, you're not. You're on mute.
You can unmute yourself.
There you go. Now, first a proper introduction, and this is kind of fun. Linda is probably one of the first people I met after moving to the Eastern Shore, and I don't recall exactly when it was, but it was early on in a parade, and I remember meeting Linda, and it was. I don't know if it was a political parade or for the Education Foundation, but before you knew it, Linda had me on the Education Foundation, and I've been working with Linda. She's the current chair of the Northampton County Education Foundation. And I guess I've been working with her for about 10, 11, maybe 12 years, Linda. Long time, and that led to Smart Beginnings. Linda is a founding member of Smart Beginnings of the Eastern Shore that the Rotary participates in supporting. Linda, you're chairman of that too, right? Yep. Because the Rotary is apolitical, I won't tell you what the other thing she shares that I've been working with her on for about the same about 10, 12 years, Linda. So Linda's all over the place in terms of leading the community, contributing to the good of communities. She's focused on youth and education, but finds time to do other things. And today she's going to talk about one of the other things that she's been working on, and it relates to some of the things we've been doing under Medi's leadership, with Medi's leadership. So, and Linda, if you want to add anything else about yourself that we should know, just go ahead. But it's your show.
No, I don't want to take any more time on me. Thank you, Bill. That was a nice introduction. So yeah, I am also on the board of the Cape Charles Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative, and that's why I'm here today. And I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Can everybody see that? Okay, Bill, is that good?
Perfectly.
Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is the oral history project that the Rosenwald initiative undertook about almost 10 years ago now. But before I get into that, I would really like to just give you a little background on Rosenwald schools. Some of you may already be aware of this history, but I think it's important to understand. So real quickly, the Rosenwald schools were a result of the partnership between Booker T. Washington and Julius Rosenwald. Booker T. Washington, as you know, was an African-American educator after the Civil War. He was a former slave who grew to understand that education was the way to uplift African Americans in this country, particularly in the rural South. Julius Rosenwald was a philanthropist, a Jewish philanthropist who lived in Chicago, and he was one of the founders of the Sears Roebuck Company. And he started a foundation that it was a fund actually to provide seed money for the schools that Booker T. Washington wanted to start in the South. through that partnership, there were about 5,000 schools that were built in the rural South between 1917 and 1932. And those schools had to meet very strict standards as far as design, teacher training, and curriculum. And the designs were particularly interesting in that they were so state of the art in terms of what was seen as best, school building design for elementary and high school education, that many white school districts copied the designs. The Cape Charles Elementary School was built in 1929. It had 4 classes and an auditorium. Most of you, or if not all of you, have seen the building. It's on Old Cape Charles Road, heading toward Bay Creek out of town on the other side of the hump, the railroad bridge. It served children first through 7th grades. The brick exterior is quite unusual. There are very few Rosenwald schools that are built of brick. Most of them are clapboard. And the brick is the reason the building is so well preserved. It's actually one of the best preserved Rosenwald schools that have not been renovated. We don't really know how many total children attended the school, partly because the records seem to, with the Northampton County Department, Public Schools, their records for this Rosenwald School were lost. Nobody seems to be able to find them. But we do know that enrollment in 1957 was 124 children, which is quite a lot for 4 medium-sized classrooms. Students walked to school over the hump from their neighborhoods. You're aware of at least the 2 existing neighborhoods in Cape Charles where African Americans traditionally lived, in the north end of town and then along Mason Avenue. The school closed in 1966 when public schools were officially desegregated. So the Cape Charles Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative was begun in 2012 as an alliance of alumni, faculty, and friends. The current membership really is only our board, and we are going to eventually have affiliate members. We haven't actually set up that program yet. We're trying to figure out how to do it, but we purchased the school building in January of 2019. That building, by the way, is on Preservation Virginia's Most Endangered Historical Places list. And the reason for that is not that the building is falling down, but because it has not been renovated. The roof it's kind of a wreck. And if that doesn't get fixed soon, it will start causing major problems. So the mission of the initiative is to recognize the legacy of the Rosenwald School and offer experiences that engage and enrich the community, promote cultural awareness and understanding, and support self-sufficiency and economic mobility, which means that when we renovate the building, our plan is to use it as a community center. And that will be usable by the Cape Charles community and the larger community. And one of our initial projects is to engage the community college to hold classes in the building, which is very exciting. And I know Dr. Schaefer, the president, is very interested in having that happen. Before that happens, we have to raise the money to renovate the building for its repurposing. And that is just beginning. That initiative is just beginning. So So our oral history project is called Voices from Over the Hump. And the initiative board decided to create that project because at the time in the, say 2012, when the initiative first began, we were not sure that we were going to be able to purchase the building. So we really wanted to make sure that we were able to preserve the history. And the best way of doing that was preserving the stories of the people who, the students who attended there and the teachers who taught there. We received funding, applied for a grant and received funding for the project from Virginia Humanities. They weren't able to give us as much as we had asked for, but we managed to scrape by with what they gave us. We were able to recruit the ODU linguistics department, who the head of the department there was excited about what we were doing and offered her students in their her interview class the opportunity to come over and do the interviews as a class project, as their main class project. So basically, we had people who were being trained to be interviewers, to understand language, and also to do very high level audio recordings and transcriptions, which was a great resource. We decided we also wanted video, and amateur that I am, but enthusiastic amateur, I volunteered to do video. And it turned out pretty well. It wasn't as good as if we'd had a professional, but. So once the interviews were transcribed, they were transcribed again by linguistic students who were really most interested in the actual dialect versus the content. And so the way the language in the original transcripts seemed a little stilted and strange. So the Cape Charles Historical Society volunteered to retranscribe from the dialect to standard English, which made it more understandable. And I mean, it still sounds very natural. If you read them, it reads very naturally, but it's a little more standard English. The interviews took place between 2013 and 2015. It took us a lot longer than we had originally planned. It's quite a process getting people set up to, do interview appointments. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that went down a little later. In 2018, we published our booklet, which many of you may have, the heart of the community, the story of the Cape Charles Rosenwald School. And there's a lot of information in there about the oral history. And then there was that wonderful exhibit at the Cape Charles Museum. I hope you all had a chance to see it. A lot of the material there came out of the oral history project. So the process. So we began by developing the interview questions, thinking about what we really wanted to learn from our subjects. We were very aware that we did not want this to be a survey. We wanted it to be a conversation. We wanted people to dive into their memories and to feel free to do that. So the interviews were conducted in a very open style. In other words, we'd ask a question, and then as people got going on a particular memory, we might just have them continue on that memory, even though we might miss a couple of the other major questions in the interview. But we wanted to make sure that people really, really got into their memories. Once we had all the interviews transcribed, a group of us from the board took 3 or 4 of the interviews, read deeply and thought about them deeply, and began pulling out common themes. And this was so much fun. I've done this in my academic work in terms of qualitative research. It was really fun to look at, what were the themes that kept popping up. And so those included the quality of the education at the school. Almost everybody talked about what a great education they got there. And, despite the segregation and the lack of resources, I mean, it was a great school building, but they didn't have the books and the other resources that the white school had. Didn't seem to matter because the teachers were so wonderful and so dedicated. And on top of that, the community and the children and the parents valued education. This popped up again and again. And this one quote here from John Nottingham, who was a teacher at the school, just says it all. And respect for the teachers was another big theme. Additional themes, it takes a village. They talked a lot about how the entire community looked after the children, made sure they were in school, if they got into mischief somewhere in the neighborhood or somewhere in school, you can bet the parents knew about it once they got home. So that was a very important. The school was the heart of the community. It was a place where the parents and the churches and other community institutions were, supported. It was also a place where the community used for various activities. So it was really important to the entire Black community. They talked a lot about the fun times they had in school, what they did at recesses, the mischief they would get into. Your fellow Rotarian, Tom Godwin told a story about how he and his buddies would go into the field that was next to the school and pick a watermelon and come back to the school and break it open and eat it right there. Got into trouble for doing that, but he laughed about it. He thought it was great fun. Graduation was very important. Moving on to high school was a big step, and that was something people talked about as well. And there's a picture of, many of you know, I'm sure, Diane Davis receiving her diploma in 1962. She still has that dress, and it was on display. She does. She can still fit into it too. And that dress was on display at the museum. And then finally, the final sets of themes, the favorite memories. The biggest one was May Day activities. That was an annual event at the school where they would celebrate the 1st of May with all sorts of activities, a maypole dance. Everybody would dress up. The girls would do the maypole. I don't know what, the boys must have had some activity. They didn't talk about that as much. And then finally, segregation and integration. One of the interesting things that the students or the former students, the alumni, talked about was that they did not have the same, the lack of resources, particularly books. Books were all hand-me-downs from the white school. The fact also that the books that they did get, the reading books, especially the Dick and Jane books, were all white kids, white children, white family. The family actually in a situation that they couldn't relate to, you know, dad going to work with his briefcase and white picket fence in a, you know, little suburban neighborhood. And then a lot of the alumni also mentioned that they really didn't notice that things were different. They realize now that it was not separate, not equal, even though it was separate, but they didn't notice. And one person even said it was separate. Well, many of them actually mentioned that they thought it was better on the Black side because they got such a wonderful education. And then the final question that we asked people was about their experience with integration. Not everybody experienced integrated schools, but those who went through the transition, including the teachers, this was John Nottingham, found it a difficult time, those first few years of integration. So next I want to just talk quickly about archives. So when you do your project, if you have any materials that come out of it, it's really important that you make sure that the community, whether it's the academic community, the local, local people, local community members have access. And so what we did, we created the booklet, and that's the cover of it. We also gave provided our videos, our audio recordings and transcripts to the Cape Charles Historical Society, Cape Charles Memorial Library, the Eastern Shore Public Library, and the Eastern Shore Historical Society. So that is it. And I am absolutely delighted to answer any questions, talk about more if you have, anything else that you want to hear about. Betty and I are going to be talking. Yes, Reggie.
I think Chuck was first. Go ahead, Chuck, and then I'll go after you, okay?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said Chuck was first, so I said Chuck can go first if he likes, and I'll go after.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for talking to us today. I had two questions. I didn't realize that the school was built that late. So where did Black kids go to school before that school was built? And then the second question is, why that location? Why wasn't the school built closer to town?
Okay, so there was a Black school in town. I don't have the booklet here. The booklet describes where it was. I think it was over the north end of town, but there was a school. In fact, I think from almost the beginning of the town, from the 1880s, 90s, there was a Black school.
Okay.
And they recruited teachers, usually community members, until the Rosenwald School. I don't know how well trained they were, but certainly the teachers who came to the Rosenwald School had higher education. They all had been to teacher training. So,
well, I understand that.
The other question was,
why the location where it ended up being built? It seemed like pretty far away from town.
Well, I imagine you can guess.
Well, either that, either segregation, or maybe that was the only place available for a reasonable price.
My understanding was there was an availability of land where the old golf course used to be, where the Marina Village, the eastern part of the Marina Village, but for some reason they chose to place it in throwaway land, basically out near the town dump. So, and I can't, I don't really, you can make your own conclusions from that. but I don't, I don't really want to put words and thoughts in the heads of anybody that long ago, but we can all
And
have our
Linda,
theories. Yes.
yes, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts. I mean, your story was like walking me through my young history. Many of those individuals were my classmates, and some of them were my teachers during those years. But the question that I have is, why did the school close in 1966 after integration? Do you know?
The county just was consolidating the schools at that point, and so they decided that that school, they've closed a lot of the black schools and moved children into the white schools. And in fact, the children, from what I understand, the children who were at that point attending Cape Charles Elementary had the choice to go to the Cape Charles High School, which is the school on the park, which
Yes.
served
The school,
children
yeah.
first through 12th grade. And a few children did that. And then they moved them to, those who didn't want to go to that school they were moved to the high school, the middle school and high school in Machipongo.
Okay. The high school that I attended, actually, my
Middle school.
brothers,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
two of my brothers ended up with the transition. They left the Northampton County High School, which was the segregated high school that I graduated from, and went to the high school in Eastville. So they experienced exactly, that transition as well.
Right. Well, I'm sorry, and I misspoke. I think they moved everybody to the who was ready for high school to Eastville, and then moved the middle school children to Machipongo. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I saw somebody's hand. Oh, okay, Dave.
Thank you very much, Linda. Gosh, what an incredible opportunity for our town to reveal a part of the history of the town that is largely swept under the rug. For 30 years, I've been involved in the real estate business in town, which is my focus has been attracting investment to Cape Charles, interest in Cape Charles, people to get interested in its history, and of course, pull it up by its bootstraps. That's what we've done, right, Linda? You were such an early,
1990.
and yet, as a town is progressing, and look how far it's come. This history, I think, deserves incredible support to bring it to the forefront, because it's so easy for people nowadays who are coming to town and who are falling in love with it. They don't have a clue about the racial injustice that is part of our history. And so I think this project deserves, some real support from our Rotary Foundation, from our Rotary Club. If for only that reason, to highlight this history and bring it out and make it something that people care about and want to learn about, and shine the light on it that it deserves. So thank you.
Well, thank you, David. And
I say something?
Well, let me just finish, Mehdi, and then absolutely, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I'm not even going to go into, but I also want to, I so commend the Rotary for your project and for what you're planning to do with the history too. It all fits together. And I've been quite concerned about the kind of blindness, if you will, of the gentrification here. And I'm hoping that your project, along with ours, will help to make sure that really doesn't continue to happen. I'm sorry, Mehdi, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the same thing exactly that you said, that our project is really an expansion of that attention to the invisible history, because when I first arrived here, I never realized that there is such a robust community of African Americans in Cape Charles, like 50 years ago. And there were like important businessmen who really initiated businesses in the town, and that was not mentioned at all. And nobody heard about the lives of African Americans here.
Well, and one of the things you have about the school, which really speaks to that, is there was that little bit of seed money from the Rosenwald Fund but it had the money also had to come from the community, and the African American community raised a good piece of the cost of that building that school. I think the county may have put in a little bit of money, but the African, and they did it through their business. I'm sure there were some businessmen who did it, but each individual family that wanted their children to have a quality education also helped. So
they did it by doing bake sales and those little fundraising efforts.
And $16,000 was a lot of money in those days.
Yes.
I wanted to point out real quickly, I'm originally from Baltimore, so to think this just happened in a southern state, it's not true. I saw this very same situation in Baltimore growing up. So, it's a little more than just bringing attention to Cape Charles and what happened here. It happened almost nationwide. So it's bigger than just here.
Yeah, well, I tend to think of Maryland as a southern state, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regina, you'll be the last question. You're on mute, Regina.
How much is the total renovation going to cost, and when will it start?
Okay, so I do not have the exact figures. It's going to be several $million. And we still have not even raised the full amount to renovate our roof, to repair the roof or replace it. But I think we have a fundraising initiative that is just lifting off now, and I think it'll start happening soon. But I do not have a timeline, and I'm sorry, I don't have the exact amount, but that I can get you, Regina, if you need it, or at least the amount, because there's already an estimate.
Yeah, to put our project in perspective, you have started this like almost 10 years ago, and the completion of the project is still just in the beginning. And so the Invisible History project that we have to take a long-term view also.
Well, are you planning on renovating the structures?
Well, we plan to erect historical marker, and so we are going to make plans about what we are going to do about revealing the invisible history by taking the golf tour site on Thursday. By taking a tour of the site, we can have an idea about how many sites we are dealing with, and we can discuss what is the most important approach to preserving this.
Well, it took us about 5 or 6 years to really complete the oral history, just so get a perspective on that. Anyway,
Okay,
thank-
Linda, thank you for joining us. You're always welcome. And well, I sort of said that tongue in cheek that you're honorary Rotarian. There are members of our community that are outstanding that we really do think of as honorary Rotarians, and you should consider yourself possibly being among them.
well, thank
And
you.
I know you're busy. Linda and I have talked often about her becoming a Rotarian, but her plate is so full. Because Linda would not do it halfway. She would be totally dedicated. And but you know, we still have a lot of time ahead of us. So Diane. Hello, Diane. With regard to what we think, say, and do, 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Stanley.
We will continue to have fun.
All right. See you next week, folks.
All right.
Bye.
Reggie,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I tried to send you a couple of emails a while ago, right before the meeting, and they bounced back as undeliverable for some reason. So you might want to look.
I will check it out. I'm afraid that I may have run out of email storage.
I think that might be what happened. I have 2
thousands.
email addresses for you, and it happened to both of them.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul.
Right.